I am a 50-year-old woman who, from a young age, embraced a belief in reciprocity. I trusted that my diligence and kindness would be met with the same from others. This principle guided my relationships, and I firmly believed that treating people with compassion would inspire them to do the same. Even after marriage, I held on to this belief, hoping that my care and thoughtfulness toward my husband would be mirrored by him. Back then, the expectations placed on women were different. We were often expected to make sacrifices, and I accepted these norms wholeheartedly. I devoted myself to my husband and children, confident that these sacrifices would lead to a fulfilling future. Yet, life didn't unfold as I had hoped. Despite tireless efforts and countless early mornings dedicated to my family, my work often went unnoticed, overshadowed by complaints or minor mistakes. I wasn't forced into this lifestyle. I was just an ordinary person who married a coworker 5 years my senior, conforming to the societal norms of the time. After the birth of my daughter, I left my job to become a full-time housewife. I never regretted the decision, seeing it as a natural step for maintaining family harmony. My life wasn't glamorous like the stories in TV dramas, but it was stable and manageable, until my daughter reached 9th grade. That was when tragedy struck. My mother passed away suddenly from a heart attack. Amid my grief, I discovered my husband's affair. While I mourned, he found solace in someone else, growing distant and eventually demanding a divorce. In those days, divorce was heavily stigmatized. Despite his cold and irresponsible behavior, I hesitated to consider separation. Looking back, I realize how naive I was. Yet, with a daughter witnessing our crumbling marriage, I felt trapped. During a particularly heated argument about our impending separation, my father, recently widowed and deeply concerned, came to visit. Witnessing my distress, he encouraged me to leave with my daughter and offered us refuge. His support marked a turning point. With his help, I saw that clinging to a failing marriage was futile. Overwhelmed by his compassion and wisdom, I agreed to the divorce. In the settlement, my husband gave me $6,000 in cash. With my father's backing, I secured a modest 3-bedroom townhouse for my daughter and me. It became a fresh start, but I braced myself for the challenges ahead. As a divorced woman raising a teenager, I anticipated judgment and scrutiny. My daughter, like any adolescent, struggled with the upheaval and often voiced her frustrations. Yet, I knew I couldn't afford to dwell on the past. I had to provide for her, so I threw myself into finding stable work. Being an older, divorced woman with a dependent child posed challenges in the job market. Undeterred, I juggled multiple part-time jobs, worked night shifts, and took on freelance work whenever possible. As time passed, my daughter reached her senior year of high school. Despite our financial struggles, she excelled academically and found ways to thrive. Motivated to secure her future, I took a demanding job at a 24-hour restaurant. Enduring 11-hour shifts, I saved 2/3 of my earnings for her college tuition. Throughout, I faced judgment and gossip, particularly from married men who assumed I was vulnerable, but I persevered for my daughter's sake. The sacrifices were many, but I was determined to give her opportunities one never had. She became my anchor, giving me the strength to endure life's challenges. I clung to the hope that one day, we'd look back on these hardships with pride in our resilience. A year later, my daughter's outstanding academic performance earned her admission to Harvard University. That moment brought immense joy and validation, making all our struggles feel worthwhile. As she embarked on her college journey, I reflected on everything we had endured and felt a deep sense of fulfillment, knowing we had triumphed together. I felt a profound mix of pride and relief knowing that our shared sacrifices had led to such a promising new chapter in my daughter's life. Although I had managed to provide her with an education and a stable home, the emptiness left by her absence was palpable. We kept in touch regularly through phone calls, and during the initial months of her newfound independence, our relationship deepened. Her continued affection and connection were a comfort to me, and I treasured the growth in our bond despite the challenges we had faced. When my daughter graduated from college without financial burdens, a dream we had tirelessly worked toward, I felt an immense sense of accomplishment. I had hoped we might live together again, but to my surprise, she secured a job at a defense corporation and chose to live independently. To support her decision, I took out a bank loan and helped with the down payment for a condo near her workplace. As I aged and adopted a simpler lifestyle, my daughter blossomed into a stylish and confident career woman. Seeing her thrive brought me immeasurable joy, reinforcing the value of my sacrifices. In her success, I found great satisfaction, feeling the truth in the saying that people often forget their own needs in moments of joy. Despite the financial stability I had provided during her college years, her upcoming wedding presented a new challenge. Some questioned why I continued to struggle financially when my daughter was capable of supporting herself. Yet, I was determined to contribute to her wedding expenses to prevent any potential disdain from her future in-laws. My belief that sacrifices for her happiness would bring joy to us both kept me resilient. As she entered the dating world, I noticed a growing distance between us. Initially, the change hurt, but I came to understand that her adult life and relationships rightfully took precedence. I waited patiently, hoping she would mature and reconnect with me, realizing that priorities naturally shift during this phase of life. On her 28th birthday, however, I experienced a poignant moment. I had looked forward to celebrating together, but she told me she had plans with someone named Scott and reassured me that there was no need for any special preparations. While her intent may have been to ease my burden, her casual dismissal of the day stung. Her birthday, a day so significant to me, seemed to be just another day to her. Determined to see her, even briefly, I took the day off work and made an extra effort with my appearance before heading to her office. But what I encountered there left me reeling. In the lobby, I saw my ex-husband with his new partner, people I had long hoped to avoid. How he knew to be there puzzled me. When I tried to call my daughter, she abruptly hung up, claiming she was in a meeting. Feeling bewildered, I turned around and, to my shock, saw her cheerfully calling out to her father and embracing him warmly. Her boyfriend seemed to know my ex-husband and his wife, which deepened my sense of betrayal. It felt as though everyone had conspired against me. Drained and upset, I quickly left the scene. Reflecting on that day, I wrestled with a desire to confront both my daughter and my ex-husband, but a stronger urge to retreat and protect my heart won out. Despite the turmoil, I resolved to continue loving and supporting my daughter, holding on to the hope that time would bring understanding and healing between us. I found myself unable to reach out to her. Then, unexpectedly, my daughter came to visit, announcing her engagement and handing me a wedding invitation. As I read the invitation, my heart sank. The names printed on it stunned me. Though she was my daughter, I felt an intense urge to send her away. How could she treat me merely as a guest at her wedding? Unable to hold back, I confronted her, expressing my hurt at being marginalized during such a significant event. "I'm not just a guest," I told her. "I'm your mother." My daughter apologized, her voice hesitant, explaining that she felt trapped by the circumstances. She wanted to marry Scott, but his parents scrutinized every detail about her. Her revelation left me grappling with a mix of emotions, hurt by her actions, but torn by the need to understand her position. During our conversation, she shared her fears. She worried that my status as a divorced single mother and the struggles we endured might negatively impact how Scott's family viewed her. Her confession stung deeply. I couldn't hide my frustration. I reminded her of the sacrifices I had made, the years of working tirelessly in a restaurant to fund her education, the hardships we had faced together. Her actions felt like a betrayal. Yet, despite my pain, I tried to bridge the gap between us, hoping to find common ground as she approached this life-changing decision. But then she said something that shocked me. She brushed aside our shared struggles, focusing instead on her future comfort. She revealed that her father and his new partner, the very woman who had caused the breakdown of our family, had already met her future in-laws. "The past doesn't matter," she said coldly, "only the present does." Her dismissive attitude hit me like a blow. For the first time, I harshly expressed my disappointment. In response, she retaliated with a bitterness I hadn't expected. "If you want to remove me from your life," she said, "then reimburse me for the costs of raising me." The exchange escalated quickly, her words cutting deeply. She stormed out of my home, declaring us strangers. Left alone, I stared at the wedding invitation she left behind, noticing that another name, her father's, had taken the place where mine should have been. 2 years later, I received devastating news. My father, who had chosen to live independently to avoid burdening me, had passed away. His death hit me hard, bringing with it a painful realization of my shortcomings as a daughter. A few months after his passing, I inherited the modest condo where he had lived. It became a poignant reminder of the family ties and challenges that had shaped my life. As I stood in that condo, I thought about the money I had saved for my daughter's unused wedding. A bittersweet realization dawned. I had spent so much of my life sacrificing for others, trusting that my devotion would be enough, but perhaps I had neglected myself in the process. It was time to change. I decided to start living for myself, even if it felt late in life. Reflecting on everything I had endured, I resolved to prioritize my own desires and needs before it was too late. Amid these reflections, A close friend, a real estate broker I had worked with during my restaurant years, offered a glimpse of a new path forward. I had spent most of my life sacrificing for others, trying to meet expectations and ensure those I loved were cared for. But one day, a close friend, a real estate broker I knew from my restaurant days, challenged me to consider what I truly wanted. She encouraged me to break free from societal expectations that demand women sacrifice endlessly. Her words sparked something in me, a desire to live for myself. Though I felt pangs of regret for the years lost to sacrifice, a new sense of hope began to grow. Inspired, I decided to take a leap into the real estate business. Using my savings and the proceeds from selling my late father's condo, I studied auction bidding and took a bold step. To my astonishment, I became the owner of a building in a prime location almost overnight. 8 months later, after returning from a mountain climbing adventure, I moved into the top floor of my building, transforming it into a cozy home. I felt a sense of liberation, a fresh start to a life where my happiness took center stage. One evening, as I rested from my adventures, a knock at the door interrupted my thoughts. Exhausted but curious, I opened it to find my daughter standing there. She was visibly pregnant, holding a chubby-cheeked toddler, with tears streaming down her face. Her life, she confessed, was in turmoil. Her husband had become violent and unfaithful. Now, on the verge of giving birth and needing to care for her young daughter, she sought refuge with me. Her arrival stirred a tempest of emotions. The wounds from our past, her disregard for my sacrifices, and our bitter parting, were still fresh. She admitted that beyond seeking shelter, she needed financial help. She even hinted at a claim to the money I had once set aside for her wedding and my inheritance. Caught between compassion and anger, I confronted her. I saved for your education and your wedding. I sacrificed everything for you. You once told me to stay out of your life. Now, after all that, you come back and ask for money? The bond between a parent and child isn't something to be exploited whenever it's convenient. Her response cut deep. I am still your daughter. You raised me to be strong, but maybe you were too busy working to teach me how to be a better person. I've become selfish, but now, I have no one else. My father's new wife ran off with all his money, and he's disappeared trying to find her. If you abandon me, I'll be like an orphan, with no one to turn to. How could you turn your back on me and your grandchildren? Her words overwhelmed me. In the heat of the moment, I pulled out all the cash I had and threw it at her. Take this money, I said coldly, but after this, don't come back. I won't let you walk in and out of my life as you please. Your life is important, but so is mine. I watched as she left, carrying her child and her unborn burden. The pain of asking my daughter to leave was almost unbearable, but her selfishness, and the echoes of past grievances, had become too much to endure. After that, my daughter never returned. Too proud to admit her mistakes, she cut ties entirely. I often wondered if things could have been different, if she had come back genuinely repentant, seeking forgiveness and understanding. Perhaps I would have found it in my heart to help her, to confront the mess her husband had made of their lives. But that moment never came. Instead, I was left to reflect on the complexities of our relationship, the pain of our separation, and the lessons I had learned. Despite everything, I couldn't help but feel disappointed. My daughter had erased me from her life to pursue a marriage that ultimately brought her misery. It left me questioning why both she and my husband had made such destructive choices, despite the sacrifices I had made for them. Now, I see that the only person truly living the life I envisioned is me. This experience taught me a valuable lesson. No matter how strong your relationships may seem, you must prioritize your own well-being. Betrayal can come from anyone, but the one person who should never betray you is yourself. Happiness, I've learned, doesn't come from the sacrifices you make for others, but from the efforts you invest in fulfilling your own life. My story may seem like a tale of a life half-lived, but I'm determined to fill the rest of it with experiences and joys meant solely for me. Thank you for listening to my story. I hope it brings insight and encourages you to cherish your happiness and dreams. Let's cheer each other on toward a life fully lived.